Welcome everybody to the September Pension Advisory Committee, and welcome to our guests. All right, so the first order of business is the approval of the prior meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look at them?
So moved. Both sets.
All right, any issues?
I had a couple comments.
Sure.
And I don't know. I mean, I had just a few things, but I can go through it. I had like on the minutes from July 13th, I just feel like some of it's a little confusing if I'm reading it, not having attended the meeting. I don't know how to go through that with you, or if I just go through that with Stephanie offline. I don't know.
Right. Either that or you'd need to abstain because it says you were there though.
Yeah, I was there. I just had some
okay.
comments.
Okay,
on,
sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, certainly some parts of the last two meetings, we were kind of all over the place.
Right.
So I agree that, you know, that some of it I didn't remember, or maybe I didn't remember. But you know, I think my takeaway is maybe you guys have any thoughts on it. But you know, we didn't vote on anything, and you know, and I'm trusting Stephanie got the content right. So it's just my aging memory.
So should I not go through?
It's up to you.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry to say I have quite a bit, but it's more semantics, but I don't know if we need to go line and do that, or if I just kind of walk through it with Stephanie.
Well, then you should table the minutes and Colleen and I should talk offline.
Oh, there you go. I was just thinking about that. Yeah, that's good. So why don't you
edit them and resubmit them for approval?
Perfect. Sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Colleen?
Yeah, that works. Thanks.
Colleen, both July and August?
Yeah, I mean, because we did have pretty in-depth discussions in both, and I just want to make sure they're clear.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, my only edit, Stephanie, was Merck is spelled M-E-R-C-K. And Vanguard, I think, was 2 words and it's 1 word. All right, so other than that, we'll just postpone the review until next month, or approve voting until next month. Okay, anybody else have any comments other than Colleen? Okay. Hey, there's John.
No, other than I'm moving.
All right, so anyway, let's move on to the old business. First thing I want to talk about just for a little bit is a quick debrief on the Ways and Means Committee, Joint Ways and Means Committee last month. Since I'm going to ask Bob, Joe, and Sinclair, I guess, and Colleen, you guys had any thoughts on it?
Ed, I think we had a brief conversation. I thought you did a real nice job. It was brief and to the point.
I agree. I thought I did a great job.
So, and I think the more importantly is, I guess, the message got across. I hope what we're trying to communicate was that.
Ed, I think you did a very good job actually, and simplified it fairly well. As I said to you, I still think anybody just coming to listen to it for a first time still has to apply some thought to it just to understand the concept. But I mean, it is a complicated concept, but I think you did a very good job in making a succinct presentation.
I appreciate that. So I guess, you know, one of the thoughts I had, and it's further down the agenda, but I'll just sort of top, is that, you know, we have education, continuing education opportunities looking for them. And so I was thinking down the road, whether we might even want to present this to the employees. I don't know what you thought about that, Sinclair.
Wait a minute.
You're off. Sinclair, Sinclair, your speaker's off, so
There
we
we go.
can't hear you.
Sorry. Thank you. No, I think it would be a good idea to make some type of presentation to everybody at one time so that they understand what we've been looking at this last year. And I think that's a fairly good presentation to give.
Okay, good. So we'll try to get that in. All right, so moving on to the next item is the 2021 budget and long-range plan. Ken, I was wondering if you could tell us where things sort of stand in the process. Ken, did you get that?
Ken Wallace, your microphone is off.
Thank you. We have a budget workshop tomorrow, as everybody knows. We've implemented the PAC recommendation into the budget for 21, and going forward into going to implement it into the forecast also.
Yeah, I guess that would include I think we finally are starting to better understand when the discount rate changes impact MMO. Our proposed change to lower to 7.25 wouldn't technically happen, wouldn't impact the MMO until calendar year 2022. Is that right, Ken?
That's correct,
Okay, great.
because we already have the MMO for 21, and that's based off the 1119 report with the discount rate of 7 3/4.
Right. So we have that for 2 years. I guess we have that for 20 and 21 at 7 3/4, and then it would go down to 7 1/4. Good. All right. I think I finally got it. So what time is that budget meeting?
3 p.m.
3 p.m.
3 o'clock.
Okay. Anybody, any other thoughts on the budgets relative to the pensions? Okay. Next item is the Breedy debrief and the report modifications. I sent out to everybody a straw man of what changes we might want to see, and so I throw that out to everyone. So if because I think it'd be a good idea for us to give her some concrete examples of what we're looking for. And so that was my attempt at doing that. So if everyone can take a look at that, I don't intend on covering a lot of it tonight or this afternoon, other than it seems like maybe we're not all on the same page regarding the benchmarks. Colleen, I know you had expressed some concerns about that with Deb.
Well, I mean, I think I've been pretty clear repeatedly that I feel like using the actual blended benchmark is sufficient, because it does bring in asset classes of which the portfolio is invested.
Yeah, well, on that, I wasn't advocating either or. To be honest with you, I was advocating both.
Right, and I feel the same. If we feel that we want to simplify a benchmark with 6535 Barclays, that's fine.
So you're good with having both?
Sure.
Okay.
I think both is important. They point to similar results, but they're coming at it from different angles. So the reference policy benchmark we've been talking about is a high level benchmark, a high level simple benchmark. The other aspect of the actual constructed benchmark of the portfolios for the investments we have is certainly more complex, but that is extremely relevant to determine the efficacy of the advisor and the decisions made. So they're coming at the same performance issue, one from a 30,000 feet, the other one from maybe 1,000 feet in terms of the actual portfolio. So I don't think they're mutually exclusive, but just gives us further depth and dimension to the portfolio's performance.
So if everyone could, thanks to Tom on that, so if everyone could take a look at what I sent out, that PowerPoint between now and October 1st, and then get back to Joe and I, and what we'll try to do is we'll try to assemble everyone's feedback, and that our next meeting we'll kick it around a bit, and then hopefully we'll be able to resolve, to come to an agreement as to what we want to communicate to Deb Breedy in October. That way she has plenty of time, hopefully, to make any changes that we'd like to see. So does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Everybody good on that?
Mhm.
Sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, so moving right along, the investment policy. Tom, you have any
Yeah,
comments on that?
the redraft, if you will, of the investment policy is coming along. I'm driving that car for us at this point. I will have a draft document for our next meeting, no doubt, and that'll be a first look by the committee of what is a recast IPS. And while Ed was able to finally get me a version of the draft from the advisor that I was able to cut and paste, which was helpful. So I'm using some of the language, some of the format from the old. But I would say a couple of things. And what is different, what will be different about this document is we are composing it. So this will be designed and written by the PAC, certainly for the benefit of the Doylestown Township and the beneficiaries. So we will own this document, so to speak. So it will be written by the asset owner of which we are and whom we represent through the PAC. The prior document was written by the advisor as a fiduciary. And so there's some of the language in there is beyond, I would say, the parameters of a standard IPS. And the essence of the IPS is just to lay out the ground rules, the objectives of what the investor wants to be done with the portfolio and how the assets are managed. So I'm going to adhere to that format. So it will be somewhat of a simpler document. I hope very straightforward in that sense. There was a lot of language in the prior document that goes back to things that we've talked about to some degree, individual securities and the portfolios, which we don't have, nor do we want to have. And
Tom, you're talking about not the draft that Breedy sent, but the one that's actually in place right now. Is that right?
well, the draft and the one in place overlay, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it overlays. So
And you're looking at both of them, right?
I am looking at both of them. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And although the drafting incorporates most of the language from the prior, which was the existing. So I guess there are a couple of things I don't know here. So I don't know if we had an investment policy statement before Breedy wrote the first one or not. But again, it was written from the advisor's view. And that's not unusual. That can happen. But with the evolution of our group and having the PAC, we should be writing this document. And I think we have all the elements, and we have the intelligence, we have the knowledge to do that. And again, in doing that, it becomes our document, and it'll be an important document because it's a document we will use in the future. You know, particularly if it comes down to another RFP, you know, this will be included in part of the information for that RFP. Anyone bidding on an RFP, any type of advisor, is the first thing they're going to want to know is where's your IPS. And so this will be written from the point of view of our authorship, not the authorship of Breed, because there's a lot of references in there to her and the firm, her firm, which, since she was the author of those documents, that's perfectly fine. But I think we need to cleanse the document and keep it agnostic in that sense. Again, because things have changed in terms of the investing universe. You know, we're all passive on equities. You know, I'll assume for now we're a combination passive and external managers on fixed income. So there was a lot of language in there that is just not applicable. And you know, I believe we're in agreement on something like alternatives not being particularly viable for this for the plans. And so it'll be a cleaner document. Probably the most important aspect is setting clear the asset allocation intentions that we want to follow. And I did put in I call it the pathway on the discount return, which we've just recently have come to finalize, getting us to that 6%. That's clearly an important number in there to convey to an outside advisor in terms of that's our flight path for, if you will, expected return / discount rate. And so I think the old document was 14 or 16 pages. This will be half of that at the end of the day. And I found a lot of the language repetitive and redundant, and a lot non-applicable to how we're invested today. How we're invested today, and more importantly, what our intentions are going forward. So, so I'm actually having, if I'm allowed to have some fun with an IPS, so be it. But it is coming along, and I thought I might have had a version ready to pass along, but I realized I don't want to rush this. And but in any sense, you know, this will be a first step, subject to all of our review and discussion, and I'm sure there'll be more edits to the document, but we will have something to work with, you know, in our hands for the next meeting.
Tom,
Yes.
does the 6% target support the flight path?
Well, yeah, the flight path is what it is, you know, and so, but I think it's important to convey that to an external advisor, you know, what we're thinking. So, you know, we've had a lengthy discussion over the 6%. And I think on one hand, from a fundamental point of view, I think we could be in agreement. We should be at that 6% right now. But obviously, for other considerations, that's not, it's untenable. So therefore, the pathway to get there, it's important to convey that. So I went with the 2-year steps down from the current 7.75 down to 6. And again, it's there strictly for disclosure purposes in black and white. You know, it's to be viewed in tandem to the 65-35 asset allocation mandate, if you will, you know, that we have.
Okay.
Yeah, Tom, just as you're talking, just thinking about it, is that you know, as you're drafting this, if you could think about, you know, I'm thinking about these education opportunities for the Board of Supervisors, because at the end of the day, it's really their document, not necessarily, you know, it's not ours, but it's theirs. So if you could think about how we could explain what what an IPS is, its implications, et cetera, et cetera. You know, so if you can think about it along the way, that would be great. And we can we come up with a similar presentation. And
I've had it sent. I have set it up. I think you and I spoke a little bit. I'm a big fan of simplicity rather than a convoluted document. You know, an introduction, a purpose, objectives, discussion around the portfolios in terms of direction and prohibitions, if you will, and it should read very. I would say any. There's always going to be some nomenclature in a document like this that the secular person may not comprehend necessarily. But to your question, to your point, I want to make it a very readable, digestible document. So,
but also like just like an intro. I mean, like I don't know, 3 or 5, 1, 2, 3 or 5 slides talking to the Board of Supervisors. This is what we have, and a lot of people may not know we even have an IPS.
Yeah. No. Exactly.
Right? So, what is an IPS?
Exactly.
Why do we need it?
Yeah, no, and that's how the document starts out. And
okay.
And there were, I guess there were a couple of nuances. My tenure with all of you is short, but with the benefit of a handful of months under my belt, so it's clear that the role of the PAC be clearly stated in that, you know, and so I do that, and we're simply an advocate. We're an advocate. The investor is the township. Beneficiaries are the plan participants, clearly. We're an advocate for both in that sense.
Right.
And our key role is interfacing with the advisor as the external investment manager. And I do go through, I put in and reiterated, almost anticipated, a lot of the issues we've been talking about in terms of reporting, types of reports, frequency, and the interaction and the role that the PAC plays in that. So that was very different from the prior document written by the advisor themselves as a fiduciary. So I wanted to migrate the tone of it sufficiently enough to reflect all those changes. So
great.
But once we see it, as always, this is a draft and open. I'm actually looking forward to lots of input and nuances. Things can be built upon, things can be removed. But I think it'll be a very good starting point for us to finally get an IPS, as they say. And this is an important aspect that we own. And we present it to the township. Ultimately, the township owns it, but can clearly convey the points and purpose of what we're trying to do.
Great. Thanks, Tom. That's great. All right, so we got that for October as well. So any comments, questions? All right, moving on to new business. What I have in new business is, it's basically, we got Breedy, we got Kennedy, we got us, and status updates and interactions, basically interactions with the Board of Supervisors, and when and how often. I just put a stake in the ground, just thinking out loud. I'm thinking maybe we should have at least 3 interactions with the Board of Supervisors each year, but I'm open on that. So just thinking out loud, the first one in the year, I think would probably be appropriate to have it in March. And the reason why that is I think by March we get the pension plan financial statements by then, right, Ken? Ken, I don't know if you got my question.
That's correct. You'll be getting them probably in March.
In March, or approximately when is it? Early March or
Ed, probably mid-March,
mid-March?
around
Okay.
that time.
All right, so we'll have to figure out exactly when that would be, but as an example, we would have it in March, and so we would have, I think it's important to have Brady come and present to the Board of Supervisors, and then Kennedy, and then, we would have a sort of a minor role in that one. And maybe we present something from the financial statements or something like that. And then I'm thinking like in the June timeframe, when the budget process kicks off, we could, our committee could present to like we did this year, present to the board. And like I said, this year happened in May, but anyway, present to the Board of Supervisors whatever sort of key issues or recommendations or changes in recommendations that we're considering for moving forward. And then I'm also thinking September, and September, I'm thinking, so we'll have our meeting with Brady in August. And so in September, we could just give a short review. It would just be us. And we would we'd give the Board of Supervisors an update on performance and other issues, and whether there's anything that we want to touch on concerning the budget. So,
Ed,
yeah,
Ed,
go ahead.
this is Joe.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I've got a new PC. First time I used it for Zoom, and the only screen I see is the person who's talking. So I'm not sure who else is out there. And I've scrolled around my screen trying to figure out who's what to whom. But anyway,
Actually, everyone's on, and then we also have a guest. So basically, it's everyone's here.
Joe, have you looked for the gallery view versus the
Well,
key speaker view?
where's the?
That could be. I
Upper
have it
right?
in the right-hand side of my screen. At least on my screen, and it says speaker view, and you can kind of pick, because what's happening is you're probably seeing me right now as the key speaker versus the gallery.
I'm not seeing myself at all.
Well, your video isn't on, because all I'm seeing is your name.
Okay.
For example, Colleen's the same way.
Yeah, you were on before, Joe, and then you disappeared.
Well, anyway.
This is not going in the minutes.
what I see is between Stephanie and Ed. As far as meetings, I think we agreed in prior meetings that Brady should present 2 financial reports a year.
No, I'm not talking about a report. I'm talking about meetings with the Board of Supervisors.
But I think that we should have data that represents a period in time to report to the board. So-
I agree. That's why I basically had March. So we'll get the year-end report from Brady. And so
Okay,
that
that's
would, that
one.
would be available.
And
And
then
that's why I'm thinking September also.
so that's the 2 meetings to do financial review.
Correct.
Okay, I'm totally agreement with that.
And then a third one in June, sort of, as I said before, is kind of a budget kickoff to talk about any key issues. Like, we spent a lot of time on the discount rate back in May. Next year, it might be an RFP or something like that. So anyway, that's
Okay.
But so that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if you guys have any reaction to how frequently, any thoughts on what I just said or suggestions? Colleen, any thoughts?
No, I think that works. I think it's pretty much what we've had been talking about, so that's good.
Bob, you good with this?
Yeah, I'm good with it.
All right, so I think this, Stephanie, in terms of us actually getting on the Board of Supervisors agenda, I mean, is what we're suggesting here feasible?
It is. I mean, you attended the joint budget meeting, which I guess was in May, and you talked
Right.
about what you were proposing.
Yeah.
So we'll kind of count that May, June timeframe. Now, September's meetings, we're obviously having a budget meeting. Tomorrow's mostly focused probably more on capital.
Right.
So it might be like the October meeting. And I guess the question is it the intention of PAC to kind of come and recap to the Board of Supervisors? This is what we've done this past year. This is the reporting we've received from Deb Breedy, the information from, Tom Anderson's office, which is Kennedy. At what point, I mean, is that your September, I'll call it, your kind of summer and fall with the board?
Well, so we'd have to think about what we literally do this September/October, but, thinking about just in general.
In future,
First is that, we get the performance data from Breedy towards the end of July. She reviews it with
Right.
PAC in August. And so basically what we would do is we would take take a summary of that and present it to the Board of Supervisors. And then if there's any key issues that we think that should be highlighted. So for example, if we can get on the agenda this year, we might try to take a slimmed down version of that presentation we did the Ways and Means last month, just talking about the fact that there's a cost of debt associated with the with the deficit. So that's at least that's my thinking right off the top of my head.
Okay, well, the September meeting is tomorrow, and obviously PAC is not on that agenda to do what you're proposing.
Yep.
If you're thinking you wanted to throw something together for October, separate from I'm trying to understand if this is separate from the budget process, part of the budget process.
Well, I think it would be a combination. It would be giving her an update. Yeah. So, for example, we got the 6-month results for the pension plans from Breedy. So we would go over the 6-month performance and the fact that the portfolio had rebounded a lot since March, and then so that would be relatively short. And then we would also, I'm thinking that we would present that cost of debt presentation that we presented to at Ways and Means last month, and just to get them sort of up to speed on that.
Okay, so then you're talking presenting October 6th to the Board of Supervisors. Again, do you want me to put it on, make sure it gets in with the budget, or did you want to go to the the regular board meeting and talk about it separately? That's what I'm trying to understand. So
Yeah, so you're saying a regular scheduled budget meeting, is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yeah, actually, budget meeting is probably more appropriate.
Okay. So you want to, at this point, it would be the October budget meeting this year.
Okay, which would be around when?
That would be the next budget meeting, basically October, I think it's October 6th at 3.
Okay.
And we'll have to make sure, Ken will make sure that we schedule time for that
Okay.
as part of it. Next year, obviously. And then I assume, in going back to Tom and the IPS, is that you will come separately to the Board of Supervisors with the IPS. And you'll present that to them. I know you were saying like have a few slides.
Exactly. Yeah. So that
the
would probably
document.
be early. That would probably be early next year.
Okay. I'm
Yeah,
just
so
trying to get a time.
whenever we finish it, but that actually might be a special one since it's so,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just trying to get a handle on
Yep.
that.
I think the final version and presentation of the IPS would warrant a separate meeting, and I'm going to get ahead of ourselves, but I think that'll be a document that we will be proud of presenting, and I think will show to the Board of Supervisors, a very tangible benefit of the work we've done. So I think it will stand on its own, but it should have its own time slot at the appropriate time.
Yeah, that's great.
Absolutely. And at the same time, Ed, you're probably going to want to, because I know the board will probably want this, and I'm, would most likely have the township solicitor review it as well.
Exactly.
So maybe it probably is, once you've finished it, you're okay with it, we could send it to the solicitor for his 2 cents, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good
And
point, Stephanie.
Then have it, if he has any suggested changes from a legal standpoint, you could incorporate them, and then we could get it to the Board of Supervisors. That's
that'd be-
just my
that's-
suggested thoughts,
That's a
but,
great idea. Great idea.
Is there any way we can get all that information to the supervisors a little bit further ahead of time than just the Friday before the October meeting, and try and reach out to the other supervisors to give them a little bit of homework beforehand? I just know our budget meetings are always so crunched. I'm a little concerned that we're gonna not be able to get to everything if we don't prepare ahead of time.
Yeah, so are you talking about, Jen, are you talking about specifically on that thing I talked about, we're going to discount rates and stuff?
Yes.
Yeah, so actually, I do plan, I written that down, I do plan on reaching out. So actually, I was able to get, to reach out to Dan Wood
Okay.
a week or so ago. And I literally went over the same presentation. And he, I'm just looking at my notes, he grasps, he appreciated one appreciated it. And second, I think he grasped everything. So I think he intellectually understood it. Now, I did ask him at one point if he knew what a discounted cash flow was, and he didn't know. But I think that's okay, because I think he still understood the concept. But anyway,
Right.
So him hearing it a second time probably wouldn't be a bad idea. And I do plan on reaching out to Barb and to Ryan as well to
And
see if I.
Have you
In
had
his
a chance to talk
in
to
his defense,
Nancy?
I think if you'd asked 99.9% of the people what a discounted cash flow was, they'd have problems with it.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I
so-
agree. Yeah, so I wasn't surprised, but so I did get the sense he really understood what I was saying. So I'm sorry, you were saying, Jen?
I was asking if you had a chance to reach out to Nancy yet.
No, I haven't. I will do that.
I have a separate question, although somewhat related to the IPS and the advisor, and Stephanie perhaps I'm sure can answer this. We no doubt have an agreement / contract with Breedy.
I defer to Ken. I'm whatever documentation we have with the IPS and her appointments and things like that. I don't know if there's an actual, contract, or there may be letters of
question.
appointment and stuff like that. I mean, they're 20 years old, so.
Okay.
That's
And-
correct. The contract is 20 years old, and I believe, Stephanie, you would know the folklore concerning Deborah Breedy. She made a presentation at PSATS back in 99 or 2000.
Yeah, I was not the manager when she was appointed, or just about that time. I was just coming on board, but the board had already decided to bring her on around that time.
So Tom, to answer your question, I don't believe there's a formal contract between the township and Deborah Breedy, but because I haven't been able to find one in the archives.
Okay. Well, that's
If I might interject, when the task force was looking at various and data backup stuff, there was a 1 or 2 page agreement somewhere in, I'm going from memory, 2001 or so, which was a quote unquote agreement with Breedy, but it was cancelable upon, a short notice. But that was,
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
histrionics. I mean, it's back in 2001 era.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
she's been working basically, in my humble opinion, off of a verbal contract since then.
Yes, there is a contract, but it's not, it's an advisory agreement between, at the time, I think it's still Commonwealth, her advisory firm, of which she is an investment advisor representative, and the township.
Okay. Well, I guess that does speak to a lot of the language in the IPS, which brings in Commonwealth and brings in the custodian and some other things that are not. So the IPS you're going to see from me, I can't speak to those items because that was authored by a fiduciary. So the IPS is not a contract. It's not an agreement. It's an expression of intent and objectives. And again, it will be authored by us. So it would, it's one of these things as we go forward. Should we do an RFP, we certainly need a more formalized agreement with an external investment manager that just covers all of these. All of these bases.
Yeah.
And the IPS would stand next to that as basically marching orders, so to speak, simply marching orders to the advisor over what the township wishes and desires to be accomplished in the portfolios. So this is the old IPSs. We're little apples and oranges for what the new one will look like. So some readers may be a little, may find that a little odd, but some of the legacy things you just laid out kind of explain it to me, so I understand that. But again, I think we'll have the opportunity to recast this in a much cleaner light going forward.
Great. All right. So I think we're generally aligned in terms of the touch points with the Board of Supervisors. Any other comments on that topic?
The only other thing I would say in terms of some of the timing, I think it's important for the PAC to have the in-depth discussion with the advisor, not simultaneously, but in advance of.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Supervisors, because we will get into details and we may debate some issues that are appropriate for the PAC to debate as an advocate of the township. But I think to your point, Ed, you mentioned if we were to have a streamlined version of reporting, that would facilitate the communication to the Board of Supervisors. And
right.
That's one of our major challenges at this point. We don't have clean reporting. So the standard question would be, well, how has the advisor performed over the last 20 years?
Right.
And I'd answer that question.
Right.
We don't have the data.
Yeah.
So that's my
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. That's a good point. Okay. We're blowing through this agenda pretty quickly. That's basically all I had. Is that just in section 5, that's just the other items for discussion for the future. So we obviously have the next meeting and possibly the meeting after that. Agendas will be occupied by the feedback we're going to give to Brady on our reports, and to Tom's point, if we can simplify those. And then we'll be doing the IPS probably the next couple of meetings, and then preparing for presentation to the Board of Supervisors. And then moving forward is creating, and maybe probably in parallel, this executive summary for the Board of Supervisors. And then we talked about the continuing education opportunities. So, we'll try to get that in probably in the latter part of this year, early part of next year, at least with the employees, maybe latter part of this year. And then the RFP, as we talked about previously, the RFP, I think one of our big goals for 2021 is getting ramped up on the RFP.
So I would guess from what I just heard,
Yep.
There was no RFP for the current advisor.
Stephanie or Ken?
20 years ago, no. It was considered a professional service at the time, and Act 44 changed. So municipalities 20, 30 years ago could kind of pick a professional advisor. Previously to that, we had like PNC, I think it was PNC, yeah, PNC Capital or something like that. And we also had a company called Spagnolia Cossack. They were the advisors at the time, and they were selected just from interviewing and they're professionals. Act 44, I believe, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, now requires that municipalities, when they want to change advisors, have to do an RFP.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, no, and the formulation and development of an RFP is quite an exercise in itself. I just warn us going
Yeah.
forward. I was hoping there was a template for that, but we'll have to.
Well, actually,
I have a lot of colleagues who have done them, and they're always circulating what they did. And I think we got some samples previously.
yeah, we did. Is who's the
Yeah.
guy that used to be on the committee, Stephanie?
Greg Schuster,
Greg.
Warminster had done it.
Yeah,
So, you know, there was also someone, and I don't know if they're still in business or not, and whether or not you'd feel comfortable, but there was a gentleman who was actually offering a business to help manage the RFP process.
oh, I remember that.
Everything.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah.
that.
He's got some stuff going on, so I don't know if he's still doing that or not, but, you know, it's a great kind of thing to get into. Is, you know, like you said, it's complicated, Tom, and you know, for municipalities, and Greg actually mentioned that as well when I guess Warminster went through the process. And
Because from what you're saying, this Act 44 would dictate some of the parameters around the RFP, clearly. Whereas the IPS is not a contract, it's not a legal document. Yes, subject to the approval of the township or board of supervisors or whoever. But it's a softer document in that sense. And so now we're coming up into a more of a formal legal requirement, which is fine. And I think is totally transparent, and it should be that way in this day and age, frankly. But there's a lot of nuances to an RFP, and you know what, you can get caught in your own language, like it or not, sometimes.
Yeah. So as I recall, is Greg, I'm blanking on his name, who's the budget manager in Warminster. He was on our committee for the first year we were in existence, and he was more than willing to help us out, at least provide us, you know, copies of his documents and give us some guidance. So that, you know, we'll definitely reach out to Greg come next year to take advantage of that.
yeah, and I believe there's been other municipalities in Bucks County who've also gone out. So easily enough we have a consortium of managers, and so it'd be very easy to kind of put the question out, who's got an RFP? You know, we help each other out with document sharing and information and answering stuff like that. So happy to, when we're ready, just let me know, and I can put that question out and ask people to share their, you know, RFP documents for pension advisory services, and share any copies we obtain from our neighbors.
Great, that'd be awesome.
That would be very helpful. Yep.
All right, so that's basically it for today's meeting. So if everyone can, again, just, you know, I sent that document a couple of days ago on the report modifications. Please take a look at it and get back to Joe and I by October 1st, and then keep an eye out for Tom's draft, and we'll see you next month. You have a motion to, anything else?
Can I
Yeah,
just
I
have
just
one
want to make
comment
sure
real
that,
quick?
I just want to make sure that tomorrow at the budget review meeting, that Ed, you're presenting the amount that the PAC is recommending for the discount rate over time.
Well,
And
actually,
that Ed Edenbach, has put that in the budget.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm on the agenda. But I was planning on calling in.
Can you address that? We did take your information and they have put it into budget information, but I think it's there. Ken, can you address that? Ken? You need to yeah, there you
Yes,
go.
I'm here. Yes, like I said to you before, that the PAC recommendations, we put it into the budget, and will be a topic of discussion tomorrow.
Okay, all right, so, yeah, I don't know if I'm presenting
I
anything.
want
per
to
se.
make
I guess
sure
I'll-
because last year, the recommendation was cut at the last meeting with no ability by PAC to come back with that cut.
Well,
And-
I think this year, this meeting's early enough that if there is something that you want to address, that you could probably come back to
Yeah.
us. I think last time it was at the very end, right? So it made it,
Yes, it was.
yeah. So I think from what I understand, it is in there as you requested. And plus there's more time in case there's some misunderstanding or in case you want to plead a case later.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
I just have one. The general auditor from the state came in and did the pension audit for the township pension plans.
Okay.
And his name is Anthony. We had our exit interview today, and they'll have a full report, and I'm sure we'll share copies, et cetera. But I just want to acknowledge that he shared with me that Ken Wallace and his staff were very professional, our books and records are very well kept and information provided, and of the other municipalities he goes to in Bucks and Montgomery County, he was very impressed with Doylestown Township and the way we handle the pension plans and everything like that. So
Awesome.
kudos to Ken Wallace and his
All right.
department in that regard. Just
Good job,
wanted to
Ken.
share that with the PAC.
Great job.
Hopefully gives
Yeah,
you a
good
little
job, Ken and team.
confidence
Yeah,
in
that's
the
great.
finance department.
Thank you.
Excellent, Ken.
Excellent.
That's
not-
great. That's great. But we still have a deficit.
And
Well,
he
we're
was not
working
as
on it. We're
concerned
working on
about
it.
that, Joe.
We're working on it.
I
He
said
was
good
not
job.
as
We're work-
concerned. He felt
we're working on
our
it.
plan was very well run and he was very complimentary.
Good, that's great. So anyway, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Joe Delica.
Any second?
Who
Second.
seconded that?
Bob second, all right,
Thank
all in
you.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Hi.
so, see you next month.
Thank you.
Hey, Steph,
Yeah.
I can only get one person on the screen, which is you right now. Where do I change my setting to see all the participants?
There should be somewhere in the upper right corner, it should say gallery view.
Joe, bring your cursor up to that top right-hand corner.
Yeah. On the
And
right,
then it'll
upper right
pop
hand.
up.
Says like
I have
speaker view.
I have the bars, which says open menu. Then I have a Firefox account. Then I have a
No. You should have
Show
your Zoom,
participant.
Yeah,
You want to have a look at your
you see
Zoom
something that looks
open.
like 9 boxes?
Do you have your Zoom open, Joe, or the black bordered screen?
Yep.
Okay,
And the
bring your
upper right
cursor
corner,
up,
there should say speaker view.
bring your
It looks like
cursor
a
up to the
square with
top
little dots on
right-hand
it.
corner.
I got participants 5,
Mm-hmm.
close.
No, there should see something that right along the very edge of the black box, there should be something that says
Top
speaker view.
right-hand corner of the black
Yeah,
box.
top right. You have that, Joe?
Is your cursor in the top right-hand corner of the black box?
Right?
No-
Says
no- is anything
close.
popping up?
It says open menu. Sign in to Firefox, protection dashboard.
Do you have your Hey, check on the bottom. Do you have your window open? You
As I said, I just got this damn thing.
Yeah, no, so you can see me, you can see me, my picture now, right?
Yes.
Okay, so.
And I have participants 5 on the, I have full screen. Zoom is now full screen.
Check share screen.
Joe, your
No,
video
share
isn't on
screen's
now.
something else. That's different.
Yeah.
So I think you have to put your video on first.
Yeah.
Where's the video?
Bottom left.
Bottom left.
You should have I think you probably have.
Or video, okay. Your camera is not launched properly. Please check browser media permission settings. I'll work on it. I'll do a Zoom.
Joe,
See you, Joe.
if you want, Bob and I can practice with you.
Yeah, we'll do it later. Okay.
All right.
Catch you
Goodbye,
later.
everybody.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.